The board meeting is in session. Political consultant, attorney Jane Duker is with us. Good morning, Jane Duker.
Good morning, McGraw.
Riverfront Times editor Chad Garrison. Chad, thanks for coming in.
Morning.
And John Deal Jr., a late scratch. He is, of course, Speaker of the House in waiting, so Jay Kanzler is filling in for him. Good morning, Jay Kanzler.
Good morning. I'm the Martin Brodeur of the board meeting.
That is, oh, there you go. Yes, that's way to break your arm patting yourself in the back. Let's start.
No, I meant my rare appearances.
Let's start with the Ferguson Commission, which started off in a somewhat of an interesting way. Good morning, Jay Kanzler.
Good morning. Yeah, it did start off. I mean, they got through a few hours of ground rules and basics, and then folks from the neighborhood and from around the area broke in and disrupted the meeting. And it became very tense and emotional, and that shouldn't surprise anyone. This entire situation has become tense and emotional. And frankly, the commission, while I think a good idea, has a tendency to look a lot like many other commissions that have been put together around here with people from, boards and companies. And I think there's some concern out there that there isn't a lot of the community of Ferguson and the surrounding communities represented on this board. And frankly, they may be right.
It was.
Yeah, I applaud these demonstrators who actually broke up this meeting after, it was entering its fourth hour of kind of nauseum, and these people are frustrated, and this commission is, while certainly has good intentions, I think I just feel that it's not going to resolve any issue. It's certainly not immediately. And down the road, by then, I mean, we're already doing stuff. There's already, laws are being filed to try to address some of these issues. I'm not sure what the commission's going to do that will.
So would you rather just not see a commission at all?
I would say, I don't know. Yeah, actually,
I would think like we should have it. I mean,
have a commission that has a charge that is goal oriented. This is like a commission saying, go out and figure out how we get world peace. It's like what what was the what were the underlying economic, social, all the reasons that led to Ferguson, and how do we fix that? Come on.
Which is why Peter Kinder voted against the funding for this.
Well, I mean, and I don't have a problem with having the commission. I do think it sort of needs to be, I do think the goals need to be different. I think it's not bad to have, business leaders. These are the kind of people that most of St. Louis County, want to see when you talk about big issues. It's not right. It's not good. It's not maybe the way it should be. But I do think having a group like that allows another avenue to have discussions about Ferguson that doesn't exist. Do I think it's the panacea of everything? No. And do I think that, I actually watched the whole thing. And
I did?
Thought, oh yeah. And I thought, oh my goodness, this was like the beginning of it was like a bad corporate meeting. It's those thousands of where the facilitator comes in and you use BuzzSpeak and you use, and it was like this. I was like, oh my, and so I was not at all surprised when the residents finally just said, "Are you kidding me?"
But the residents who came in and complained, what do they want?
They don't want to talk about. They know what the problems are. They know that it's poverty. They know that it's education. They know what the issues are. They want to start talking about executable items, and that's why.
Like what?
Anything. Things we're talking about now.
Focus on one. Pick one. That's my problem with this commission. Pick one.
Right.
Don't say world peace. Okay.
Right.
Say, peace in this particular country, and that's what. Municipal courts. That's being addressed.
Right.
Education. Okay, and even within education, let's say funding for education,
right,
or the dropout rate, or
let's talk about
job training, or
right,
police training.
Pick your topic, and that's what they
everything.
want. They said, okay, you guys are the neat guys. They basically said, you guys are the neat guys in the community. You're the ones who get stuff done. Give me the list that we're going to get of stuff that we can do now. We want solutions. We don't need to talk. We don't.
Well, that's the
It's
definition.
so broad.
That's the definition of a commission. You guys know that a commission is set up so we don't have to talk about this, right? So you can say we set up a commission and then kick it down to the can 18 months.
But I gave the people credit there. I thought Reverend Starsky I mean, it got intense, and it got intense quickly, and he stuck with it, and I thought Reverend Tracy, who I'm a big fan of, went out there.
I think we're all fans of all of them. They all
Absolutely.
mean well,
Exactly.
But what power do they have to do anything? And like we've been saying from the beginning, everyone knows the problems.
Right.
But you want to fix the muni courts? Guess what? There are a lot of people who don't want to fix the muni courts because that's their gravy train.
Well, just a good example of that is this amnesty program, which I am like just completely uptight about. So come in, pay your $100 to get your warrant recalled. And it's like, well, okay, that puts you in the spot you were before the warrant went out. I mean, it doesn't change anything, and you're paying $100. If you really want to take care of getting rid of some of these fines and things, then you know what? You need to have a day of muni court where everybody comes, and not only do you come in and get rid of your warrant, you get your tickets and whatever it is, you get it negotiated, and you get it done for good. I mean, that would truly clear some of the decks. So you're right. So, but that's they want to talk about solutions. They kept saying, what are we going to do to fix this
You
now?
could pave Highway 40 with the reports of all the task forces and commissions we've had in this city.
It's what it is paved with, isn't it?
It may be. And I think that's part of the frustration.
Right.
But let me back up. Let me take the protesters on for a second, Chad Garrison. Protesters want it done tomorrow. Guess what? That's not the way it works. You know what? We didn't get in this situation, and it takes time. You've got to vote. You have to go to these meetings. You have to go through the process. You have two houses. It has to go through the governor.
You have to focus.
You have to focus and all this.
That's, to me, the
and you
biggest
can't
part.
just
But you know
stand
what?
up at a news at a thing and say it was scream and yell and rant and rave.
No. But we also, you say we can't fix things in one day, but we got there in one day. This had been building up, but it all happened on the day that Michael Brown was shot.
Right.
And so these people, and there's this 3-month delay between his death and the grand jury announcement. And then, it comes out that there's no indictment, which many people thought was going to be the case, regardless. It's like, why didn't we do that? What took so long? And people are frustrated. I mean, I can definitely see their frustration. Yes, it's going to take time to figure out solutions. But, I think as Jay mentioned, it's so broad. And there's not going to be any one,
If there was a silver bullet,
solution.
we'd have done it by now.
Yeah.
And so, for example, let's take the body cams. And I thought that was something that the protesters could sort of declare victory on. Hey, they got body cams on police officers in Ferguson, which, frankly, in the United States is kind of a front runner thing. Well, as of tomorrow, everybody's decided, because of the Eric Garner, body cams don't help.
Don't matter.
So it is difficult for people who are willing to come out and say, okay, let's try this solution that, because of the anger and I think in the emotion, people, when you try to put up sort of practical, proposed solutions, they get shot down pretty quickly and people get vilified for having done it. So I do think that the emotional part was necessary, and we're still sort of in that.
But
maybe when that, tampers down a bit, people will actually start talking about some practical stuff that they can do now.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, and I think, turning the corner a little bit on this, I have the same frustration these days with the continued protests that are occurring, the shutting down. We're going to go to this intersection. We're going to go show up in the lobby of the Chase Park Plaza. At this point, I think the idea of the protests is to raise awareness. You get out, you say, we need to learn about this. I want you to think about this, and then let's get to work on finding solutions to this. There isn't a person under a rock anywhere in this town that doesn't know about the issues, and that there needs to be kind of a community effort to change things. To me, at this point, the protesters are almost counterproductive. They're starting, the flare-up in the Central West End. This is going to continue more. They're getting frustrated. People, you don't get to just lay down in the middle of the street if someone's trying to get to work and hold them up for half an hour. And that's not the way things work. And at this point in time, it's not helping. Everyone knows there's an issue.
Chad?
I agree. I agree with that, but I also say that, for many of the people involved in this is a movement, and this is something that they can, grab onto. And maybe they didn't have, a cause to fight for before. I mean, they're invigorated and they have energy.
And to me, I want to harness that.
But the energy needs to go in the right direction.
Right,
In the right
exactly.
direction.
Let's harness
Focus on
it.
change,
Right.
as opposed to we need change.
I think, I think the Band-Aid has been peeled off very slowly here, and people are still, hurting. And I think that,
Right.
we didn't just rip it off in one day. I mean, this wasn't like, this has been 4 months now almost. So, I think I think it's going to go away. I think, in the next, I would guess February. I mean, you're not going to see these things. But, right now there's Eric Gardner yesterday. I mean, there's still momentum. There's Tamir Rice just a couple weeks ago. And
I'm all
But
for
let
that.
me ask.
But-
Let me ask you this question: these protesters and Jay, everyone talks about hope and change, and we're all for change. Okay, what kind of change? Well, wait a minute. So you have an oppressive state. You have a state entity, a policeman who is using excessive force on its citizens. Okay, what better way to find out than have 12 in this case, and in New York, 23 citizens sit and decide whether or not the state used too much force. This might be terrible, but what's better than 12 and 23 citizens deciding whether or not the state went too far against one of its citizens? Sounds to me, in theory, that's a pretty good system.
I mean, it's citizen review.
Yes.
I think people were not happy with the outcome. And
Right.
but you know what? I do think there's things that you can do, because I do think that there is a legitimate argument that that maybe police are allowed to use too much. I mean, that's a law thing. So you can look at it this way, where you say, okay, the grand juries, both of them, came out with these decisions based on the law that they were given. If the law is skewed too far toward the police, then maybe we need to change the law and the grand jurors can follow it. I mean, I don't think that's a completely unreasonable interpretation. I also think that there's a legitimate argument that, there's a certain sector of society that's going to believe the police no matter what comes out of the police's mouth.
And there's a
there is some
similar section.
awareness changes that need to happen there that take time. St. Louisans are not quick. And it's going to take some time for people to, to change. And that does take awareness and situations being brought forth so that people can be aware and say, you know what, maybe the pendulum is a little far here. And
Right.
and that's more amorphous.
We'll leave it with you, Chad.
Well, as far as the juries, I'm under no illusion that the juries are not, biased to some degree. I think, as far as the protesters, yes. I mean, a jury is really the only way to go about this. But at the same time, the protesters are very much biased on one side. I mean, there's people who are biased for the cops, and these protesters, I mean, they made their decision based on, what they heard, what they saw, what they're being told, and they don't care about the jury, just
Right.
as the person who's
Right.
defending the
And then there's
police don't
everybody
care
else
about
They
in the
want to
middle.
keep
And
on
then-
finding a jury that will finally indict him.
As a lawyer, you always want to find the jury that ultimately will find in your favor.
Right.
I'd like to do that
it's
too.
just,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants. Oh, we need to change the system. Well, come up, give me one suggestion that's better than the citizen review of a grand jury, and let's talk. All right, 9:30 here, Big 550 KTRS. That's Chad Garrison, editor of Riverfront Times, Jane Duker, and Jay Kanzler here on the Big 550.